Okay, so we have A, B, C, D and E done, so we can get on and do some more. I do just want to remind you that I have set up a keyboard shortcut for select loops and select boundary loop. Just set that to W, so you'll need to set that if you want to follow along with these videos. Everything else is just normal. Okay, let's get straight on and do the F. So I can select the text object, tab into edit mode, press 1 for point select mode, alt and click any vertex to select the whole thing. I'm going to press P to choose separate, tab to object mode, select the new object, press F2 and rename it to F. Then I'm going to tab back into edit mode, press A to select everything, del to zoom in, press 1 on the numpad to go to the front view. So I'm going to start with this curved section here. I'm going to select them from corner to corner, and there are 12. I'm just going to go over and press space, and the end panel in the edit tab and press space. And these connect to these over here, so I'm going to select these from corner to corner, and there are only 9, so I need 3 more down here. I'm going to hover over an edge, press Ctrl R, type 3 and hit enter. Now I'm going to select them all again and press space and loop tools. Now I'll fill them in by pressing 2 for edge mode, selecting this one at the top, and just pressing F until we get to the kind of corner here. Now I want to select this edge at the bottom and just press F to put a big face in here. Now I need to go to the side, select this edge, and if I hover my mouse at the other end, press F, and that'll fill those in with 3 faces. But I do want to add some loops here because they don't cross through any edges. I'm just going to add 6 looks good. I'm going to add 1 loop over here at this side, and I'm going to add 2 over here. Now we don't want to add any loops in this middle face here. We don't ever want to add any loops which cross through other edges. All the loops we do add at this stage can only go from edge to edge. That's really important. If you've got any loops crossing through each other, then creating internal geometry just takes too long, and we can't have this taking too long. You should be able to retopologize an entire typeface in 2 or 3 hours. Okay, so that's all good. I'm going to tab to object mode and apply the shrink wrap modifier. Just hover over here and press Ctrl A. Then I'm going to tab back to edit mode. I'm going to press A to select everything, W to just select the border. Remember I made a shortcut for that. Press Ctrl I to invert the selection, then press X and choose edges. Now press 1 for point mode, press A to select everything, F to fill, I to inset and type 0.001 and hit enter. Press X and choose faces to get rid of the n-gons. Now I want to alt and click near the inside edge, and I press GG, hold down alt, type -30 and hit enter and let go of alt. Let's press 2 for edge mode, and let's fill it all in just by selecting this top edge here and pressing F to fill down to the kind of corner. Then go to the bottom, select this edge and press F to fill up to the gap. And then I select this side edge here and hover my mouse over the other side and press F to fill it all in. And now I want to add the internal geometry. So I'll press Ctrl and R, roll my mouse until there are 2 loops, left click and right click. And 2 more running across the bar here, so Ctrl R, left click and right click. Now I want to press A to select everything, and I want to press Shift and N to recalculate the normals. I'm going to tab to object mode, press Ctrl and 3 for the Subdivision Surface Modifier, right click and choose Shade Smooth. So tab back to edit mode, change back to edge selection mode, and I want to add a control loop between the first 2 faces at this extremity. So Ctrl R, left click, E, F to flip it around if necessary, move it, left click, right click and then mark it as a seam. I'm going to do exactly the same thing down here. So I'll put a control loop in and just move it down, mark it as a seam. And then I'm going to need 1 at the edge here, and another one at the edge here. Now I think these internal corners need to be tightened up. So Ctrl R, left click, E and F, but you might notice that I'm aligning them to the straight edges over here rather than the edges beside the internal corner. And that just helps with the density of the geometry in these areas. So I've got that one, I'm going to do the same here, and then the same here. Now I can't do that for this one at the top because it would make the 2 corners uneven, so I'll use the usual method of aligning the edge to the inside with project. And I want to use G stretch with project on this one. Good. Now if I just move the camera a little, I'm going to press A to select everything, E to extrude, Y for the axis and type 0.4. Change to face select mode, alt and click around the edge, press I to inset and type 0.04. I'm going to press W to select the boundary of these faces and use mark seam. I'll just turn on the edit switch in the Subdivision Surface Modifier and that looks great. So I'll tab to object mode, right click and choose set origin, origin to geometry, Shift and S, move the cursor to the 3D object, reset the cursor's 3D Z position to 0, and again right click and choose set origin, origin to 3D cursor. I'm going to press Ctrl and A and hit R to apply the rotation, and then I'll just apply the material we're using over here. Now with the letter selected in the outliner, I'm just going to press M and move it into our Arial Black Friendly collection. And that's done. Next letter, the G. So I'm going to select the text object, go to point select mode and select all the vertices by alt clicking here, then shift alt clicking here, press P and choose selection, tab to object mode, select the new object, press F2 and rename it to G. I'm going to tab into edit mode, press A to select everything and del to zoom in, press 1 on the number pad to go to the front view. Now I'm going to start with this curve at the bottom. And I can see I want one more level in here, just at the same level as this one. So I'm going to press Ctrl and R and left click. Now press G, Z, hold down Control and hover over this one I want it to match with. And that's good. Now from here to here I've got 10 vertices. And at the bottom from here all the way around to here I've got 17. And I'm just going to press space to space those out. So I need 7 in here. So I'm going to press Control and R, type 7 and hit enter. And then I'm going to select them all and press space to space them out. Now I like to have a vaguely straight line running down here. So I'm just going to connect these two in the middle and work on each side separately. So again, I've got 6 on this section, and from here to here I've got 8, so I need another 2 up here, and just space them out. I can fill this part in now so I know it's done. Then around the inside here I've got 12, and on the outside section I've only got 10, so I need 2 more in here. I'm going to space them out, and I can fill in the rest of this curve with faces. Now I'll do the big curve around here. I'll connect these 2 here, and then round to the other corner I'll connect these 2 here. So select all the way around the outside from corner to corner, and I have 17 vertices. I'm just going to space them out. And on the inside from here around to here it's 13. So I'm going to press Ctrl and R and add 4 in there, and then space these out. Now back to edge mode and I can fill in all these faces. Now I want to see how many unconnected vertices there are here, so I'm going to click here, Control click here, and there are 6. So Control R and 6 on this edge. And I want to make these vertices the same heights as the one they'll connect to, so G, Z, hold Control, hover and then left click. G, Z, Control, hover, click, and just do that for all 6 of them. Now back to edge mode and select this exposed edge down here and just fill these in up to the top. Good. Now I just want 2 more loops at this little section at the top here. I'm going to tab to object mode and apply the modifier. Tab back to edit mode and I'm going to press A to select everything, W just to select the border, then press Ctrl and I to invert the selection and delete them. Now press 1 for point mode, press A to select everything, F to fill, I to inset and type 0.001 and hit enter. Press X and choose faces to get rid of the n-gons. Now I'm going to Alt and click near the inside edge, press GG, hold Alt, type -30 and hit enter, and then let go of Alt. Now I'm going to Alt and click near the inside edge, press GG, hold Alt, type -30 and hit enter. Now in edge mode I'm going to fill in the curve around at the bottom. I'm going to connect these 2 here and fill in all the way around the curve. Then this edge here again and fill in right up to the top. Great. Now I want to add the internal geometry, so Ctrl and R, 2 loops, left click and right click, and 2 more running around the curve here. So Ctrl R, left click, right click. Now I want to press A to select everything, press Shift and N to recalculate the normals, tab to object mode, press Ctrl and 3 and choose Shade Smooth. I'll tab back to edit mode, change to edge selection mode with 2 in the number line, and I want to add a control loop between the first 2 faces at this extremity. And then I'm going to round to the bottom and do the same here. Good. Now if I just move the camera a little, I'm going to press A to select everything, E to extrude, Y for the axis, and type 0.4. So I'm going to change to face mode, Alt and click around the edge, press I to inset and type 0.04. W to select the boundary of these faces, and then mark scene. I'll turn on the edit switch in the Sub-D modifier, and that looks great. So I'll tab into object mode, right click and choose set origin, origin to geometry, Shift and S to move the 3D cursor to the object, reset the 3D cursor position to 0, and again right click and choose set origin, origin to 3D cursor. Now I'm going to press Ctrl A and hit R to apply the rotation. I'll just put the material on over here, and then let me move this one into the collection just by selecting it, pressing M and choosing Arial Black Friendly. Good, all done. Next letter. Select the text, tab to edit mode, press 1, alt and click any vertice to select the lot. P, selection, tab, selected, F2, rename it to H. Tab to edit mode, and I'm going to start with the curve. Actually, I want to add an extra vertice on this long straight section and another one over here on the other side. And I'm going to move that one up to match the other one. So G, Z, control, hover and click. Now I want to connect these two here. I select the vertices for the top section and there are 10. So space them out. And I select the bottom ones and there are 8. So I'm going to add 2 in here and space them out. Go to edge mode and I can fill all of these in around here. Back to point mode and I can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 unconnected vertices here. So I need 4 on this side. So I'm going to press Ctrl and R and roll the mouse until there are 2. And then between these I'm going to add another 2. 4 in total. Again, I like to line them up with G, Z, hover, control and click. Then back to edge select mode. Click the bottom edge, move the mouse right to the top and fill all these in with F. Now I need more loops across here. I'll just add 4 and the same over here. 4 loops. And I think at the top I'm going to make it 5 because it's a little bit bigger. Great. Tab to object mode and apply the shrink wrap. Tab back to edit mode, press A, W, Control I to invert, X and delete edges. And then press 1 for point mode. Press A and then F, then I to inset and type 0.001. Press X and choose faces. Alt and click near the edge, press GG, Alt, -30, enter and let go of Alt. Now I'm going to fill in from the bottom here. I'm going to stop at the corner and then I'm going to go to the bottom, select that, move my mouse up and fill into the top. Now I want to add the internal geometry, so 2 control loops, left click and right click, and then 2 more running around the curve here. And I will press A to select everything, press Shift and N to recalculate the normals, tab to object mode, press Ctrl and 3, right click and choose shade smooth. Tab back to edit mode and change to edge selection mode with 2 on the number line. I want to add a control loop between the first 2 faces here and then this one over here because they're at the same height. So I can select them both and now press GG to slide them. Left click, right click and mark them as a seam. And then I'm going to do the same just at the top up here. Good, now move the camera a little, press A to select everything, E, Y, 0.4. Press 3 for face mode, Alt and click around the edge, press I to inset and type 0.04. Press W to select the boundary of these faces and choose mark seam. Just turn on the edit switch over here. Tab to object mode, right click and choose set origin, origin to geometry. Shift and S, cursor to selected, change the cursor Z position to 0. Right click and choose set origin, origin to 3D cursor. Press Ctrl and A and hit R to apply the rotation. Put the material on as usual. And then I'm going to select it and move it into the collection just by pressing M and choosing Arial Black Friendly. Okay, next letter. Oh yes, it's really easy to do the eye. No internal corners or changes of direction. So select the text, tab to edit mode, select both the parts just by alt and clicking on them and separate it into a new object. So P in selection. Tab to object mode, select it and then press F2 and rename it I. And tab to edit mode. Straight to edge mode and select the bottom edge and fill in this and then fill in this. Now it needs some geometry from edge to edge, but that's just a matter of pressing Ctrl R and rolling the mouse. I'm going to give it 8 cuts here. Do the same for the little dot above and I'm just going to give that one 2. And that's done. So tab to object mode, apply the shrink wrap modifier with Ctrl A. Then back to edit mode, press A to select everything, W for just the outside border, Ctrl and I just to change that so only the edges in the middle are selected. Then X and choose edges to clear out the middle. 1 to go to point select mode, F to fill, I to inset, type 0.001, press X and delete those big faces. Alt and click on the inside, press GG, Alt, -30, enter and let go of Alt. Now switch to edge mode with 2 and fill in the faces. And again the dot on the top. Now the internal geometry just by pressing Ctrl R and rolling the mouse for 2 loops and again up at the top. Press A to select everything, Shift and N to recalculate the normals. Tab to object mode, press Ctrl 3, shade smooth, tab back to edit mode, 2 for edge mode. I'll add tightening loops at the top here. Same at the bottom, Ctrl R, left click, E, F, move it and left click and right click, mark C. Just do the same for the dot at the top. I'm going to move the camera a little. A to select everything, E, 0.4, enter. I to inset by 0.04. W, then mark scene. Turn on the Sub-D edit switch. Tab to object mode, right click to set the origin, origin to geometry. Shift and S, cursor to selected, cursor to 0. Right click, set origin, origin to 3D cursor. Press Ctrl and A and R to apply the rotation. Add the material. And then in the outliner, hit M and choose the collection to put in, our Arial Black Friendly. Done. Next letter. Another easy one. Select tab, press 1. Select both the parts and separate it into a new object. Tab to object mode, select it and then rename it to J. I'll start at the bottom here, and on the outside curve there are 9 vertices. I'm just going to press space to space them evenly. And in the inside we got 7, so Ctrl and R, 2, enter to add vertices. Select them all and press space. Now 2 for edge mode, select the bottom edge here and press F to fill it up to the top. Now I like that kind of straight edges to have straight lines running horizontally, and these ones won't be perfectly level if I fill them now because of these 2 here. So I have to press Ctrl and R to add 1 loop. I'm going to move it down a little. I'm going to press S to scale it and Z to scale it along the Z axis and type 0. That just flattens it out. Now I can fill in the rest of this area with Ctrl and R, and I'm just going to give it, how many? 6 cuts. And just select the edge at the bottom of the dot and press F to fill it in, and then add 2 loop cuts here. That's done, so tab to object mode and apply the modifier. Back to edit mode, press A, W, Ctrl I, X and choose edges to clear out the middle of this one. Press 1, then F, I to insert, type 0.001, X and delete those big faces. Alt and click on an edge inside. GG, Alt, -30, enter and let go of Alt. Switch to edge mode with 2 and fill in the faces from top to bottom and again on the dot at the top. Now the internal geometry, just Ctrl and R, roll the mouse for 2 loops and again at the top. Press A and Shift and N for the normals. Tab, Ctrl and 3, right click and shade smooth. And then tab back to edit mode. Go to edge selection mode with 2 and I'll have the tightening loops as usual. So 1 at the top here. Same at the bottom here. And I'll just do the same for the dot. We need 2 loops in there. I'm going to move the camera a little, A to select everything, E, 0.4, enter. Press 3, Alt and click any of these edges, I, 0.4, W, right click and mark scene. Turn on the Sub-D modifier on cage switch, tab to object mode, right click, set origin, origin to geometry, Shift and S, cursor to selected, cursor Z location to 0, right click, set origin, origin to 3D cursor. Ctrl and A and R to apply the rotation. I'm going to add the material over here. And again in the outliner, select it, hit M and put it in our collection. Done. Next letter. It's the K. So select the text object. I'm going to separate the letter out and rename it. For this one, I want 2 additional points along this edge to connect to these 2 here. So I just press Ctrl and R and make 2 cuts along this edge. Now I'm going to go to edge mode and I'm going to go down to the bottom here and press F just to fill in this one big face. Now I'm going to choose the edge at the top of the K and I can fill in these 3 faces here. Back to point mode and I can see I need 2 on this side to connect up to these 2. So Ctrl and R, type 2 and hit enter. I want to line these up with G, Z and Control while I hover over these vertices. I'll do that for both of them. Back to edge mode and I want to fill in the faces from the bottom edge here to the top. Now I want some more edges between all of the sides, so I'm going to put 2 up here. I'm going to just put 1 in between here and say 4 down in here. Now 2 at the bottom of the long part and maybe 6 up here for the big part. I can't put any edges inside these bigger faces as the edges would cross over the others, and we never want to do that at this stage. They'll get filled in when we do the internal geometry. That's done. Now tab to object mode. Apply the shrink wrap modifier with Ctrl A and tab back to edit mode. Press A, W, Ctrl I and then X and choose edges to clear it all out. 1 to go to point select mode, then F to fill, I to insert and type 0.001. X and delete faces to get rid of the big end guns. Alt and click an edge on the inside and press GG, Alt, -30, enter and let go of Alt. Now I'm going to switch to edge mode with 2 and fill in the faces at the bottom here of the slanted leg. Now from the top, I'm just going to filter this corner. Now I can go over here, down to the very bottom edge. I'll select this and move my mouse right up and press Ctrl and F. Now I need my internal loops along this long edge here, so I'm going to press Ctrl and R and roll the mouse for 2 loops there. And then I'm going to do the same running across here. And 2 loops running up here. Now press A to select everything, Shift and N for the normals, tab to object mode, Ctrl 3, shade smooth. Tab back to edit mode, edge selection mode, and I'm going to add tightening loops here. So Ctrl R, left click, E, F, move the point to the outside, left click, right click, mark seam. And I need tightening loops at the bottom, and I can do both at once. So I'm going to put a loop in here, a loop in here, then select them both. And when I press GG, they'll both move, and I can space everything as normal. Just this last one at the top of the K here. I think I don't like the curvature around here. I'd like to tighten that up. And I always look for ways to tighten 2 corners with 1 loop. So I can put 1 in here, which controls these 2 corners. And I want to use G stretch with project on this one. And I'm going to do the same over here. This also connects to 2 internal corners. And I'll use G stretch on that as well. I'm going to move the camera a little, press A to select everything, E, 0.4, enter, 3, Alt and click, I, 0.04, W, and then mark seam. Turn on the sub D switch. Tab to object mode, right click, set origin, origin to geometry. Shift and S, choose cursor to selected. Set the Z location to 0, right click, set origin, origin to 3D cursor. I am getting tired of saying that bit. Now press Ctrl and A and press R to apply the rotation. Add the material, got the outliner, and move it into our collection. Done. Next letter. Now the L. Well, what can I say? If you can't do the L, then this may not be the job for you. So select the text object. I'm going to separate the letter out and rename it. I'm going to put just 1 big face in here. I'm going to roll my mouse until there are this many loops. And that's done. Go to object mode, apply the shrink wrap modifier. Back to edit mode. Press A, W, Control I, and then X, and choose edges to clear it all out. F, I, 0.001, X, faces. Alt and click inside. GG, Alt, -30, enter. Edge select mode, fill in those faces. Add 2 internal loops. A to select everything, Shift and N to recalculate the normals. Object mode, Control 3, shade smooth. I'm going to add a tightening loop at the top. And I'm going to add a tightening loop at the bottom. Move the camera, extrude by 0.4. 3 for face mode, Alt and click on a border edge. I to inset, 0.04. W, mark C. Turn the switch on in the modifier. Right click, geometry to origin. Shift and S, cursor selected. 3D cursor to 0. Right click, set origin, origin to 3D cursor. Control and A, R to apply the rotation. And then add the material to it. And then up in the outliner, I'm going to move it into the collection by pressing M and choosing Arial Black Friendly. And that's great. What have we done? Let's have a look. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 letters. That's not bad. I think I'm going to end this video here because the next letter is a little bit tricky, the M. So I'll do that in a new video. Okay, I'll see you then.